No, that's not it. No, not that either. That's it. Alright, here we go. Greetings, my fellow Yu-Gi-Oh fans. Welcome to video number 5 of my Yu-Gi-Oh deck build and strategy guides. This time featuring, once again by majority vote, thank you to everyone who voted on the last poll, the Sleuth of Mechanical Ursai, the superstellar weapons that turn countless stars into power, Ursarctics. Today I'll be taking you on a tour through the stars as I go over the specific monsters, spells, and trap cards I use for the deck, as well as different strategies I learned while playing them, which, believe me, was very tricky. The Ursarctics are primarily a synchro deck, but they're pretty different from the traditional synchro decks most people are used to, which I'll discuss later. They also have some cross support with the Drytron archetype, with which they have a lot in common, both being star-themed animal mechas who break the established rules of their respective summoning method. Alpha Drytron Thubin, who's present in the artwork of their shared fusion spell, is named out of the previous polar star Thubin, which held the title over 5,000 years ago, I think. Like most of my other decks, this build utilizes a complete 60 card count, though the most it really needs is 56. And in addition to the usual Ursarctic monsters and necessary Drytron cards, it also makes use of generic water attribute support cards, because, let's be honest, it'd be a mistake not to include them. The archetype is based on the Constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, hence the bear-themed monsters. Both constellations also contain a different constellation within them, known by many as the Big Dipper and Little Dipper respectively. As a result, the main deck Ursarctic monsters can be divided into two categories, those being their non-tuners, which are all level 7 beasts, the Ursa Minor, and their upgraded counterparts, the level 8 Beast Warriors, the Ursa Major, who are tuners. If you're thinking that their levels are too high for synchro summoning, you're right. However, as I mentioned, Ursarctics are different from other synchro decks. The main deck monsters also share the effect of tributing each other from the hand to special summon themselves, while also limiting your special summons, though one of them is slightly different. Moreover, rather than the synchro monsters' levels being the sum total of their tuners and non-tuners used to summon them, the Ursarctic synchros levels are the difference between their levels, making them level 1 and level 7 respectively. And as I'm sure anyone who's seen the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime will notice, it's not that different from the Dark Synchro summoning method that the Dark Signers used. However, unlike normal and Dark Synchro summoning, the Ursarctic tuners don't tune to other monsters. In fact, they don't synchro summon at all. Since I know discussing all this may be a bit confusing, I'll go over the deck list starting with the bears in the main deck. The first bear mech on display is Ursarctic McPolar, named after the species Ursus polaris, the polar bear. It even comes equipped with its own bear claw-shaped hoverboard. When it's special summoned, you can add an Ursarctic monster from the deck to your hand. Keep it at 3. Its upgraded form is Ursarctic Megapolar. When it's special summoned while another Ursarctic is on your field, it can use its Ice Mount to target and destroy a spell or trap card your opponent controls. Keep it at 3. Next up is Ursarctic Mictanus, named after the species Ursus thebatanus, the Asian black bear. When it's special summoned, you can target another Ursarctic monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Keep it at 3. Its upgraded form is Ursarctic Megatanus. When it's special summoned while another Ursarctic monster is on your field, it can target a monster your opponent controls, and using its longbow, shoot them to force them face down. Keep it at 3. The final mini bear is Ursarctic Micbilis, named after the species Ursus arctos horribilis, the grizzly bear. When it's special summoned, you can special summon another Ursarctic monster from your hand. Keep it at 3. And finally, its upgraded form, Ursarctic Megabilis. When it's special summoned while another Ursarctic monster is on your field, it can use its massive claws to dig up your opponent's graveyard and banish a card from it. Keep it at 3. And finally, we have one of the only 2 non-Earth sign monsters in the archetype, Ultimate Bright Knight Ursatron Alpha. It can special summon itself from the hand if you control another Ursarctic or Drytron monster. And if you special summon it that way, you can add an Ursarctic or Drytron spell or trap card from the deck to the hand. Keep it at 3. With the first wave of bear mechs accounted for, we'll move on to the Super Dreadnought class of mechs and their little helpers. Topping the list is the adorable Ursarctic Polari. Its name comes from the Latin Stella Polaris, meaning pole star, also known as the North Star, which is located in the Little Dipper, and is part of the Ursa Minor constellation. Fitting, given that it resembles a polar bear cub. It has 2 effects. The first is that it can activate the field spell Ursarctic Big Dipper from the deck. Its second effect lets you tribute a level 7 or higher monster to add or special summon another Ursarctic monster from the graveyard. Its upgraded form is Polar Star, and it has a similar effect. It allows you to tribute itself in a level 8 monster in your hand or on your field to special summon a level 7 Ursarctic Synchro from the extra deck, while also giving said monster the added effect of making your opponent unable to activate the effects of their leveled extra deck monsters. Keep them both at 3. After the Cubs, we have Ursarctic Grand Chariot. Its name is derived from the alternate title of the Big Dipper, the Celestial Chariot, or Great Chariot. This is referenced twice in its design, the first instance being the shape of its scythe handle, which is the Big Dipper constellation itself. And the second is a tail-like protrusion on its shoulder, which represents the handle of the Big Dipper and the tail of Ursa Major, with the bear head on its adjacent shoulder being, well, the head of Ursa Major. Actually, I think all the original high-level Ursarctics have the same theme in their design. When it's special summoned, you can target and then destroy up to 2 cards on the field. Its second effect lets you tribute a monster from your hand or field to negate the effect that targets an Ursarctic card you control. The final bear in the pack is their deck master, Ursarctic Septentrion. Its name is derived from the Latin Septentrio, which refers to the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, which was occasionally called Septentrion sometime around the 17th or 18th century, I think. Additionally, like Grand Chariot, Septentrion has its own weapon, a giant sword, which also has the Big Dipper constellation engraved in it. Its primary effect negates the effects of non-level monsters summoned from the extra deck. Its second effect lets you add an Ursarctic card from the deck to your hand when your opponent special summons a monster. Keep it at 3. And finally, we have the extra deck's only non-Earth sign monster, their fusion, Ultimate Flagship Ursatron. It's a unique fusion that uses field spells as materials rather than monsters. Its first effect lets you add an Ursarctic monster from the deck to the hand when a monster is special summoned to your field. Its second effect lets you target and then add a banished Ursarctic monster to your hand. This should go without saying, but keep it at 3. With the monsters finally out of the way, we can move on to the true power behind the deck, their spell and trap cards. The first card on the list is none other than the Ursarctic's carrier ship, Ursarctic Big Dipper. Its first effect allows you to banish a level 7 or higher Ursarctic monster from your graveyard in place of tributing to activate an Ursarctic monster's effect, but only once per turn. Its second effect places a counter on it every time a monster is special summoned. And its final effect, which is my personal favorite, lets you remove the counters before targeting and stealing a monster your opponent controls, so long as there are at least 7 counters and you control an Ursarctic Synchro. Keep it at 3. Next is its Drytron counterpart, Drytron Fafnir. When you activate it, you can add a Drytron spell or trap from your deck to your hand. In addition to preventing ritual spells from being negated, which we won't be doing anyway, you can reduce the level of a monster that was summoned face up once per turn if you control a Drytron monster. After that, we have the continuous spell Ursarctic Radiation. By providing Big Dipper with some extra power from the Big Dipper itself, you can deploy your Ursarctic from your hand and draw an extra card for each one, depleting that power. You can also shuffle an Ursarctic card in the graveyard back into the deck, except for itself, at the end of a turn. The following spell is Ursarctic Departure. Its effect lets you add 2 Ursarctic monsters to your hand after discarding a card. You can also banish it from the graveyard instead of paying the tribute cost of an Ursarctic monster's effect, though not the turn that you send it to the graveyard.
Ursarctic Slider is the Archetype's monster reborn that works on both monsters in the graveyard and the ones that are banished, but it stops them from attacking and destroys them during the end phase, while also stopping you from special summoning non-leveled monsters for the rest of the turn.
After Monster Reborn, we have the Polymerization Ursarctic Drytron. As shown in the artwork, Polari and Thuban, the current and former pole stars, give their combined energy to the Big Dipper, and I'm assuming Mu Beta Fafnir, to combine the two into the ultimate flagship Ursartron. It works by banishing the 2 field spells, either both from the hand or one on the field and one in the hand, but if you control Polari, you can banish the remaining field spell from the deck. And like Departure, you can banish it from the graveyard in place of the tributing cost of an Ursarctic's monster effect. Finally, we have the Archetype's only trap card, Ursarctic Quint Charge. You can pay 700 life points and Polari will act as a battery, providing the energy needed to activate one of 2 effects. You can either bring an Ursarctic monster in your graveyard back to your hand, or attribute 2 Ursarctic monsters to summon an Ursarctic Synchro whose level is equal to the difference between the 2 monsters. It also has another effect that's activated when an Ursarctic Synchro is destroyed by battle. You can make your opponent shuffle their cards back into the deck until there are only 7 of them in their possession. Konami really went too far with the 7-star imagery. The remaining cards include the usual spells and hand traps like Ash Blossom, Maxie's, Mold Charmies, though I likely won't keep them in the deck, Harpy's Feather Duster, Call by the Grave, and Imperm. While the generic water support that I mentioned earlier includes Barrier Statue, Salvage, White Howling, Torrential Reborn, and Ice Barrier. Goes in Match is also a must. Now that the cards are over and done with, it's time to move on to the fun part. While this build does technically utilize 60 cards, the 2 Molcharmi monsters are highly optional, so whether you choose to use them or not is entirely up to you. And since the deck has such a high card count, drawing the cards you need could prove difficult, at least if the deck didn't have several ways to thin itself out, which seems to be a recurring theme in my beast-based decks. So naturally, that's where I'll start. Because most of the main deck monsters' effects can be used on either player's turn, establishing a board is relatively easy to pull off. And thanks to their various effects, they're highly adept at foraging for resources. However, you'll need at least 2 Ursarctic monsters in your hand to start their combos, and depending on which ones you start with, your options could be limited. So cards like Maxie and the Molcharmies are the best way to get a few extra monsters in hand while your opponent takes their turn. If you're going first, the monster you'll want most in your starting hand is McPolar, since it can search for the other Ursarctic monsters, with the best option being Alpha, which can summon itself to search whichever spell or trap you need. As shown in this duel here, having Departure and Radiation in your starting hand is a boon as well, as the former can get you, at the very least, an additional special summon, while the latter lets you keep drawing cards every time you special summon from the hand or extra deck. And let's face it, who wouldn't want to draw a few extra cards on their first turn? You can go a bit farther with this, but I'll save that for later. Another way to thin the deck is to combine Departure's effect with that of Ice Barriers, discarding the trap to not only gain 2 Ursarctic monsters, but also a third one sent to the graveyard by Ice Barrier's graveyard effect. Departure can also get rid of cards in your hand that you don't need, so you can keep your Ursarctics where they belong. In addition to thinning the deck out, you must also be mindful of the number of cards in your hand, and more specifically, which monsters you have available at any given time, as thinning the deck out goes hand in hand with this next part. It should be a given by now that keeping a sizable hand will provide a decent advantage, and because the Ursarctic can use their effects on the opponent's turn as well, having as many of them in the hand as possible during that time won't hurt when your opponent starts making moves of their own. Mictanus' effect is useful when there are multiple Ursarctics in hand, since his effect can return the monster you tributed to summon it back to your hand, making it a free special summon. If you have at least 3 Ursarctics, you could potentially choose the same monster to summon the remaining one, whichever that may be. This works best with a tuner since they need another Ursarctic on the field to activate their effects. For example, if it's your opponent's turn and you have Mictanus, Micpolar, and Megapolar in your hand, you can special summon both Mictanus and Megapolar by tributing Micpolar twice. This would allow you to destroy a spell or trap card your opponent controls, preferably before they have a chance to make use of it. If you win first and manage to set White Howling and then use Megapolar the following turn to destroy a spell they control, you can wait for the right moment to use White Howling to stop your opponent from using any other spell cards for the rest of that turn. Salvage will also bring back the level 7 Ursarctics you tribute, thanks to their relatively low attack points. If you replace Megapolar with Megatanus, you can flip your opponent's monsters, potentially preventing an extra deck summon, while Megabilis can banish troublesome cards from your opponent's graveyard. Mcbillis' effect is even better because it allows for 2 special summons for the price of 1. Using it in conjunction with the tuners allows for faster disruption plays than what Mictanus can provide. Septentrion's the best disruptor in the deck because in addition to being able to thin the deck as well, it can negate the effects of Link and Exceed monsters, so long as they came from the extra deck. And when it's summoned by Polar Star's effect, it can negate Fusion and Synchro monsters as well. There are also other combos you can use that'll take advantage of your opponent's likely attempt to destroy the whole field of monsters you're bound to have. Because the Ursarctic's effect can be activated when they're special summoned, regardless of from where, you can use the Monster Reborn cards like Cider and Torrential Reborn to further disrupt your opponent. The latter will not only revive them and deal damage, but also activate the effects of the Ursarctics you brought back simultaneously, provided they haven't been used already. And if you're trying to be a troll, Barrier Statue and Gozen Match will help you keep the advantage against your opponent. Most of the time. And since you won't be normal summoning unless you're desperate, you can use it to get Barrier Statue on the field first before you start your plays. Now, all these strategies are good on paper, but there's a lot more that the deck can do regarding both their summonings and their disruptions. So we'll be going over the cards designed to do just that. The card best suited for extending the deck's plays is their field spell, Big Dipper. Because it can banish cards you've already tributed as an alternate cost, you can get an extra Ursarctic summon, which can greatly benefit you, especially if you're going first. But you have to be careful when you use the alternate cost because it can only be used once per turn. If you're going first and don't have Big Dipper in your hand at the start, then your priority should be getting it on the field before your turn ends. The most common method is special summoning Polari and using its effect to activate it from the deck. You can then use its second effect combined with Big Dippers to banish an Ursarctic from the graveyard and special summon another from the graveyard. And if it's a tuner, you can use both to special summon either Big Dipper Synchro. But I recommend Septentrion for the first turn unless you suspect you'll need to protect your Ursarctic cards at the start of your opponent's turn. You can also get Big Dipper by using Alpha's effect, but I'd recommend using it for another spell or trap, unless you want to bait out an Ash Blossom or Imperm from the opponent. Its effect to gain a counter every time a monster is special summoned works best on the opponent's turn, since they'll be unlikely to resist building their defenses. Combine that with the Ursarctic's ability to summon themselves on the opponent's turn, and you can add to the number of counters your opponent is also adding to the card. This will also give you the perfect opportunity to steal their best monsters directly from their field. And trust me, there's no greater feeling. Except maybe using it to deplete their life points. Ursarctic's effect will grant you some leeway in what monsters you banish using Big Dipper's effect. If you banish an Ursarctic from the graveyard whose effect you haven't used yet, you can use Ursarctic to add it back to your hand in order to use it later. I also forgot to mention this, but Big Dipper's effect has another benefit. You can use your Ursarctic monster's quick effects to banish monsters in your graveyard that your opponent targets, saving them from cards like Call by the Grave. If Radiation is on the field while you're summoning, you can use it to add more cards, hopefully your Ursarctics, that you can later summon to your field while your opponent is building their forces, giving you more counters for Big Dipper's abduction effect. You can also use Big Dipper's alternate cost to keep the necessary Ursarctics in your hand for later use. Departure is another card that can be used to pay the alternate cost, and you don't need Big Dipper to banish it. And since you have to wait a turn to make use of it, it's a good way to set up your Ursarctic plays for use on your opponent's turn, allowing for more potential disruptions. Ursarctic Drytron's graveyard effect is the same as Departure's, but it can also be used the same turn that is sent to the graveyard, whether that's after using it to fusion summon Ursarctic or discarding it using Departure to gain more Ursarctics for your hand. And that's all for the Strategy Guide segment. There may be a few I didn't go over, but that just keeps things more interesting for later. So now, all that remains is to go over the final portion, the deck's final stats. As with all of my videos, I'll be giving a rating to what I deem to be the 3 most important stats for any deck: their overall power, their adaptability, and their ability to recover. Starting with their power rating, I'm giving them 4 Bear Claws out of 5. Because their overall attack points are high, they're well deserving of it. The reason it isn't higher is because they possess no real way to increase their strength. Septentrion's status as the strongest, level 7 Synchro, also helped a bit. For their adaptability rating, I'm giving them a perfect 5 Bear Claws. The Ursa Major's different effects make it incredibly versatile when dealing with all kinds of different decks. Their field spell also provides new tactics that most wouldn't be able to predict, at least not with the way things are now. And finally, there's their recovery rating. This one was a bit hard to decide, but I ultimately decided on 4 Bear Claws. Because the deck has several cards that allow for extra draw power in searches, the Ursarctics can rebuild their defenses with relative ease, though they're just as vulnerable to cards that prevent such effects. And that's all for my Ursarctic deck build and strategy guide. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! And gaming content. Be sure to vote on which of my decks you want to see me do my next video for. And if you think you found a combo here that I haven't gone over, be sure to share it in the comments section. With that said, I think it's about time for these bears to return to the stars. Farewell, until next time.